HP makes a bacon sandwich.
Lee & Perrins for the ultimate cheese on toast.
Smile. Our current account customers get an introductory rate of just 4.9% APR on our Visa credit card.
Have you or any member of your family had an accident in the last 3 years, suffered lost earnings, incurred medical bills or paid any out-of-pocket expenses resulting from an accident? If yes, then speak to Claims Direct now to find out if you're entitled to compensation. We're personal injury specialists, dedicated to helping victims of accidents that required medical attention in the last 3 years. At work, as the driver or passenger in a road accident, or trip or fall anywhere. Right now, Claims Direct are handling compensation claims for accident victims worth an estimated £60 million. Our personal injury specialist helped Mrs. Bartram after her accident. She got £10,000. Mr. Barrett called Claims Direct after his accident at work. He got £20,000. And the good news is Claims Direct underwrites the total cost of making your claim. If we're not successful, you don't pay us a penny. Remember, this could be the most important call you make today. Phone Claims Direct free on 0800 44 8863. Call now.
If you're single, or even if you're not, you'll always be welcome at the Singles Bar. People call in every day looking to chat, get a date, or perhaps something more. You'll find the Singles Bar on 09069 12 13 12. And we have thousands of callers every day looking for fun. So why don't you join me on 09069 12 13 12. Call us now.
Sean Bean and Steve Guttenberg star in Airborne Tuesday at 9 on 5.
A whole hour of matters continental and essential. Euro news from 5 a.m, then 5 News and Sport at 6.
Welcome along to NFL Update. Alongside me, Mike Carlson. As usual, he's feeling it. And this is what happened in Week 9. St. Louis go down again. This week, the Lions ram home their advantage. Tennessee tumble. They get blanked by the Fins in Miami. Owner Art takes his Ravens back to the city he deserted, but leaves smiling. And on the day the league remembers Walter Payton, his former team sack the pack. It's indeed busy weekend halfway through that regular season, and Mike, we better just explain. It was the weekend when the league got to pay tribute for Sweetness there, didn't it?
Yeah, and we talked about Walter Payton's death last week because it was Monday on this show actually when we found out. But the league had a moment of silence before every game, a really moving thing because you could see the players afterwards, sort of celebrating, congratulating each other, just remembering Walter Payton. It was a touching moment.
Quite clearly, he was a guy that everybody respected, wasn't he? Simple as that.
On and off the field. Both. I mean, and that's rare nowadays.
Absolutely. Well, it was a joy to see, and it did inspire his old team as well, as we'll see a little bit later on. But we're going to be in, first of all, with the 8 form teams in the league at the moment. They're going at it together, and we're starting in Florida.
Tennessee and Miami had only 1 loss each, so something had to give, and it was the Titans' D that gave as Damon Heward and Stanley Pritchard put the Dolphins up 7-zip. Heward still subbing for Dan What's-His-Name, hit touchdown Tony Martin downfield, and Martin did the rest, taking it in from 43 yards to make it 14-0, carrying 4 Titans and 1 Dolphin in with him. Damon's happy because he knows a 2-touchdown lead is all you'll need in Miami the way the Dolphins D has been playing. Sam Madison grabbed 3 interceptions on the day. This was his 3rd, and it set up a 4th quarter field goal by Olindo Mare. It was Mare's only field goal of the day, and that's from a guy who's been kicking about 4 a game all season. Still, Miami will take a 17-0 lead every week. And when Steve McNair fell short with just 20 seconds left on a desperation pass, the Dolphins D preserved the shutout. The Titans had just over 300 yards total offense, but Madison's 3 picks were the key, and the president was playing on a dodgy belly, as he explained to an interviewer after the game.
Well, they like to do a lot of fade stops with their wide receivers, and the way McNair's arm is very strong, and he can do those things. He can get them short or he can get them deep. And the way that they run their routes, allows us to, the way we play press, to come off on some of those things. And that's what happened.
Now, an upset stomach prevented you from starting the second half, but I guess it didn't bother you too much.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I really just had a loss of breath. This week I really didn't practice much. I was a little banged up early on, but thanks to Kevin O'Neal, Ryan Vermeil, and Troy Maurer, they got me back on the field.
The Rams, reeling after getting rousted from the ranks of the unbeaten by Tennessee last week, jumped ahead of the Lions when London Fletcher tackled Greg Hill for a safety. That's not pyramid power, London. Jermaine Crowell took a pass from Charlie Batch to put the Lions up 7-2 and did the Pontiac Pogo into the crowd to celebrate. Converted defensive end Jeff Robinson is now my idol after catching this touchdown pass to put St. Louis up 9-7. With Batch nursing an injured hand, Gus Farad hit Corey Schlesinger on a 4th and 1 to put Detroit back in the lead 18-12. With Detroit up 21-12, Kurt Warner hit Az-Zahir Hakim for 75 yards and a big touchdown to put the Rams within 2. And St. Louis regained the lead with less than 3 minutes to go as backup center Ryan Tucker took a touchdown pass from Warner. Tucker's proving anybody can play tight end these days, and the Rams lead by 3. But Gus Farad drove the Lions downfield. A 57-yard pass to Crowell was the big play. And then, with 30 seconds left, Farad stayed cool in the pocket. He looked both ways before he found Johnny Morton for a 12-yard touchdown and the win, 31-27. And St. Louis's 2nd loss in a row. A huge day for Jermaine Crowell. Dexter McLeon needs an asbestos uniform. He got burned so much. Gus Farrad's 2nd straight relief victory, and he explained why.
Can't ever give up. I'll never let myself give up. And so I think when you go in the huddle with that kind of feeling and attitude, everybody around you kind of feels the same way. The more adversity we go through, the bigger our hearts get, the bigger other things get. We're just playing tough, and hopefully we'll get some guys back because we really need them. You can't keep losing guys. But it definitely helps. It's going to help us out in the long run. If we face tough situations, we get in a bind, we can reach back and remember that we've done it under tough conditions.
In Washington, the Redskins took an early lead over the Bills in a battle of teams with 5 wins. Stephen Davis did the honors for the Skins. But Doug Flutie hit rookie Bobby Collins for a touchdown to put Buffalo up 10-7. And then Antoine Smith's touchdown run put the Bills up by 7 at halftime. When Smith's gaining on the ground, Buffalo's offense rolls, and this 10-yard run gave the Bills a 24-10 lead. Flutie was in fine form, flinging the football, and finally found Eric Moulds healthy again. That 14-yard touchdown put Buffalo up 31-10, and that dance is a Moulds breaker. Brad Johnson and Albert Cannell's late touchdown just wasn't enough for Washington. The Bills come out winners 31-17. Jonathan Linton, Smith, and Flutie combined for 204 yards running. Flutie had a good day passing. Bruce Smith, 9 tackles and 2 sacks on the day. In Indianapolis, Donnell Bennett gets a nice block from tight end Lonnie Johnson, number 83, and he goes 23 yards for a touchdown to put the Chiefs up 10-6 in the 2nd quarter. But Edgerrin James made it look easy as he took a swing pass from Peyton Manning and breaks Marcus Patton's tackle to put the Colts up 13-10 at the half. Elvis Gerbeck gets great protection, and he finds Kevin Lockett from 18 yards out. The Chiefs go back in the lead, 17-13. But Peyton Manning did it himself in the fourth quarter, scrambling 7 yards to put the Colts up 22-17, and they went on to win 25-17. Another good day for Marvin Harrison, but the star was Edgerrin James, and he explained the key to his success, which he swears isn't his hairstyle.
As the game go on, I get a feel for what's happening, what the defenses are doing, and you know, by the third, fourth quarter, they've thrown everything at you that they can possibly throw at you, and now it's time to, you know, go make something happen right then and there.
He did a nice job today in the passing game too. You know, really good job. He's becoming a better back every week, a more complete back and a better back every week. He's a heck of a football player.
Good win for Indianapolis there, but I suppose the big deal there, let's start with Miami. This is getting a mean defense going this year.
Tough D. I mean, when he was talking about playing press, they play press, and Sam Madison, Terrell Buckley are right up on the receivers, and what that does is by leaving those guys man on your wideouts, it leaves them with 8 guys in the box if they want it, and still everybody covered. So it shuts your running game down as well. But Madison is just playing out of his skull right now. I mean, I was talking last week about Sean Springs, you know, and Madison's up there in the top 3 or 4 defensive backs in the league.
And of course, the good news for them is that as the season progresses and we start getting out of the regular season and into the kind of playoff territory, that's going to be so crucial to them, isn't it?
Yeah, and Miami's also got a great schedule because most of their games are going to be played in warm weather. In fact, they go to Buffalo next week, and that's probably the only cold weather game they'll face until right at the end of the season.
So the big fellas, their joints will be nicely oiled. They'll be very happy with that one. So St. Louis, blown it, or
no,
are they still the real deal?
I don't think so, because they showed really well against Detroit, and Detroit's a tough defensive team. The Rams' big problems, what you saw, was they couldn't get their running game going with Marshall Faulk. The tackles are a problem for them. They seem to be okay guard to guard, but at tackle they were getting beat because Detroit's got ends with lots of speed. And the other problem they've got is at cornerback. Dexter McClellan had a lousy game, and so did Todd Light, who's really a step slow than I'd seen, you know, before. On the other hand, they held Detroit to, I think, 15 yards rushing overall. But, you know, it's just they got burned on the passing game. And I love watching their offense because Mike Martz has really put in, it's a fancy offense, and it takes a lot of time for some of these plays to develop. But Kurt Warner's a good quarterback for that because he can hang on to the ball, throw it a touch pass in the face of a big rush, and he did really well.
And the good news for the Bills, of course, is Eric Moulds is back for Flutie to hit now.
What a difference it makes having a wideout like that. If the Bills can run against you, they're very dangerous. If you make Flutie throw 35, 40 passes in a game, you're going to beat them because he's relatively erratic as a passer. When he gets hot, he'll kill you, but he's not hot the whole game. But if he only has to throw 20, 25 passes in a game, you're going to lose because then they're relaxed. He's throwing when you don't know he's going to throw. And if he's got Moulds as a receiver and Linton and Smith both gaining yards on the ground, then you're in a lot of trouble.
So we've looked at 8 teams there that have all been doing very nicely. Thank you very much indeed. How are they going to carry on through? Who's got the momentum here, do you think?
Well, I think schedule is such a huge part of this, and the teams in the AFC Central have a fairly easy ride in. The Rams have a fairly easy ride in. The teams in the AFC East are in trouble because that is one tough division. Indianapolis is for real, and that there's 4 strong teams there, and the Jets are not a bad team. They just don't have a quarterback.
Indeed, and we'll see how that pans out a little bit later on. We'll be looking at the standings later on, see how everyone's faring, but we're going to move on with more action for you now, starting with the champs on the road.
When your offense is as limited as San Diego's, you need to avoid turnovers, but Jim Harbaugh never saw Bill Romanowski, whose interception return turned into a recover of his own fumble. Any way you look at it, the Broncos led 10-3 at the half. Olandis Gary was running like that other guy from Georgia, 23 yards, and the Broncos are up 20-3. He tries to pinch himself to see if it's for real, but forgets he's got a helmet on. Jim Harbaugh hit Freddie Jones to cut Denver's lead to 10 in the third quarter. And then after a great touchdown to Michael Ricks was called back on a penalty, Harbaugh hit Jones again for a 44-yard score, and that brought San Diego within a touchdown. But a fumbled punt led to another Denver score, and then Gary sealed the game with a 5-yard run for the game's final touchdown. Denver wins 33-17, and you may remember at the start of the season I told you Chris Miller would be quarterbacking Denver sooner rather than later. He had a solid game despite being sacked 4 times. In the battle for supremacy in the New South, Mark Brunell hit Jimmy Smith for a 44-yard touchdown to give Jacksonville a quick lead over Atlanta in the Georgia Dome. And that, my friends, is a spike. Brunell hit Damon Jones for his second touchdown of the game. But then after a Mike Hollis field goal, Chris Chandler struck back just before the half, finding Tim Dwight for a 17-yard touchdown and a 17-7 halftime score. But Brunell's third touchdown pass of the game, this one to Keenan McCardell, put the game away for the Jags, who won going away 30-7. Fred Taylor's second straight 100-yard game rushing since returning from injury, and Brunell's best performance of the season so far. At historic Lambeau Field, Glenn Milburn gave the Bears a 7-3 lead in the first quarter with a spectacular 49-yard scamper. But Brett Favre hit tight end Tyrone Davis with just 30 seconds left in the half to put the Pack back on top, 10-7. With Cade McNown out injured, Jim Miller hit Bobby Engram from 6 yards out to put the Bears back on top. And here Jim Miller growl. But Favre drove the Packers into position to win the game on the final play. Ryan Longwell's 28-yard field goal try gets blocked by number 98, Brian Robinson, to preserve a 14-13 Bears win. And maybe the ghost of Walter Payton was looking down on Brett Favre today. Jim Miller threw 3 interceptions, but also his first NFL TD. And new Bears coach Dick Jauron was happy with the result.
You can't imagine how much this means to this football team, to this group of young men, and I know to our fans too, and to all of us. We worked awfully hard in that game, and to have it come down to that and then block the thing was a great way to end the game for us.
I consider myself a leader of this football team in this building and in the community, and you know, we're 4-4, and I plan on us being 12-4 when it's all said and done.
Who cares about little cable cars? In San Francisco, the Steelers hopped on the bus and Jerome Bettis scored the game's first touchdown. Cordell Stewart hit Hines Ward from 13 yards out. Ward makes a great catch to put the Steelers up 14-3 at the half. Watch as our exclusive bus cam puts you in the driver's seat as Bettis rumbles 22 yards to put the Steelers up 27-6. 27-6 is the way it ended. Neither Steve Stenstrom nor Jeff Garcia was effective for the Niners. Charlie Garner had a career best day rushing, but Richard Huntley took some of the pressure off the bus for the Steelers.
So real problems for the 49ers, but we should look back at Brett Favre now. Emotional win, obviously, for Chicago,
yeah.
You know, and well done to them for that. But of course, we saw Green Bay flounder last week in our game of the week, and they've done it again. And Brett Favre takes everything on his shoulders, doesn't he?
He really does, and I think to an extent the team waits for that and relies on that, and that's one of the reasons why they're so bad. He got them in position to win the game. The kick actually was a bit low, I think, which is why basically it was blocked. But they shouldn't be in that position, is the bottom line. And he says that they're going to go 12-4, you know, the rest of the year. I'd say that's possible, but it's not very likely.
Yeah.
He's got, you know, Levens is running well, Freeman is catching the ball well, his offensive line isn't that good, but defensively they really miss Reggie White, and that's a big part of the problem.
You'd have to say, of course, you know, he needs his team to help him there, but Favre looks like a man who thrives on that kind of pressure.
Almost too much.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to the same kind of point, but he likes having to come from behind. He hasn't been throwing the ball all that well because of his injured hand, so they have to find some other way to win games besides having Favre carry them.
So, mentioned there, San Francisco obviously struggling, you know, with their quarterback problem. Yeah, to look at it that way. But you called it. Chris Miller steps in for Denver. They had to shuffle the pack around, but they've got there eventually.
Miller looked good. The worry you have with Miller is that because of his history of concussions, if he gets sacked 4 times a game, he's going to be out, you know, sooner rather than later. But he's got a better arm than either Greasy or Brister, and he showed a good bit of mobility. I mean, he looked a little bit, I say, like Elway at times in that game. So he looked good. Mark Brunell looked good this week, which is good news for Jacksonville. And, you know, they're 7-1, and they've got a pretty easy run in as well.
Absolutely. So Denver, they were written off only a few weeks ago, but that's probably a little bit premature, isn't it?
Still a long shot for the playoffs, but it's a balanced division, and it's conceivable they could sneak in at say 9-7.
Absolutely. Could be done, could be done. Okay. When we come back from the break, we've got more Week 9 action for you. Plus, we throw forward to our Game of the Week.
Tempo asks, when you have a cold, is one tissue tough enough?
What I would generally do is I put 2 tissues together.
Will you test these man-sized tissues? You can even take 2.
Well, it's gone totally through it.
That's memento. New Tempo Plus. Its 4 plies make it twice as strong as any other box tissue. It has a touch of aloe vera and it's soft too.
New Tempo. Take 1.
Brilliant.
Twice as strong.
New Tempo Plus. All the softness, twice the strength.
I feel like I'm losing it.
You break more hair when it's weak. To reduce hair breakage by up to 81%.
81%?
Here's how. Pantene Vitalizing Conditioner goes right to the weakest parts of hair and makes it stronger, healthier looking, and almost unbreakable.
So my hair stays where it belongs.
Love your hair. Pantene.
It's just not working, is it, love? Let's get it done properly. Really go for it, Trent.
No annual fee, a cashback bonus award, and more. The Morgan Stanley Dean Witter card. Has your credit card just expired?
If you're single, or even if you're not, you'll always be welcome at the Singles Bar. People call in every day looking to chat, get a date, or perhaps something more. You'll find the Singles Bar on 09069 12 13 12. And we have thousands of callers every day looking for fun. So why don't you join me on 09069 12 13 12. Call us now.
Have you or any member of your family had an accident in the last 3 years, suffered lost earnings, incurred medical bills, or paid any out-of-pocket expenses resulting from an accident? If yes, then speak to Claims Direct now to find out if you're entitled to compensation. We're personal injury specialists, dedicated to helping victims of accidents that required medical attention in the last 3 years. At work, as the driver or passenger in a road accident, or trip or fall anywhere. Right now, Claims Direct are handling compensation claims for accident victims worth an estimated £60 million. Our personal injury specialist helped Mrs. Bartram after her accident. She got £10,000. Mr. Barrett called Claims Direct after his accident at work. He got £20,000. And the good news is Claims Direct underwrites the total cost of making your claim. If we're not successful, you don't pay us a penny. Remember, this could be the most important call you make today. Phone Claims Direct free on 0800 44 8863. Call now.
Bless you.
Oh.
Great Tempo quality, also in handy pocket packs.
Oh, these are great. Do you mind?
New Tempo Plus pocket packs, great for on the go.
Welcome back. More Week 9 action for you in about a moment's time, but let me remind you about what we've got for you tomorrow evening in our Game of the Week. Here it is. Dallas are at Minnesota. We're on air at 12:35 a.m, 35 minutes past midnight. It's Dallas at Minnesota. Mike's going to be dealing with that moment in a few moments' time, chatting about that. And just to remind you as well, game plan, 12:10 lunchtime on Saturday. Todd Macklin previews Week 10 for you. But let's press on now, because we've got some more action for you, starting with a match made in Art Modell heaven. The old Browns meet the new Browns.
Browns fans welcome their beloved Art Modell back to Cleveland with a little offering of barbecued Raven. But on the field, it was Eric Redd who burned the Browns. His 11-yard run, putting Baltimore up 7-zip. Tony Whoops Banks hit Quadri Ismail for a 28-yard touchdown pass to put the Ravens up 14-3, and Banks' touchdown passes have been about as common as Haley's Comet for the past couple of years. Rhett then ran 52 yards for his second touchdown of the day, and it was a 24-3 Baltimore lead. And when Rod Woodson picked off Ty Detmer's wounded duck and returned it 66 yards for a score, you could stick the barbecue fork into the Browns, because they were well and truly done. Detmer bounced back to hit Terry Kirby for a consolation score. But then Stoney Case decided that it was time for him to learn how to scramble around. He killed time before he finally decided to stumble into the end zone for a 20-yard score. Whoops, I'm in. And the final score, 41-9, Baltimore over Cleveland. A big day for Eric Rhett on the ground, a horrible day for rookie quarterback Tim Couch. In Carolina, it was Dr. Berline instead of Mr. Turnover, and he hit Mushin Muhammad for a 4-yard touchdown that put the Panthers up 10-0 over the hapless Eagles. The two combined again from 12 yards out to make it 17-0. And then Berline hit Patrick Jeffers from 21 yards out in the fourth quarter. That made it 33-zip to the Panthers. Deuce Staley ran in from 14 yards out to avoid a shutout, but the look on Deuce's face says it all. Carolina win 33-7, despite a huge game on the ground for Staley, but Berline perfect, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a big game from Mushin Muhammad. John Elway's retired. Steve Young's career is probably over. Dan Marino's out injured, and Brett Favre's playing hurt. But look, down on the field, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Trent Dilfer. Yes, Dilfer, faster than William Perry, more powerful than Al Del Greco, able to change the course of NFL games with a single throw. And who disguised as Trent Turnover stepped into the New Orleans Superdome and emerged as touchdown Trent Dilfer. The terrific Tampa tosser threw 3 TDs to torment a totally traduced Saints D. Meanwhile, the Bucs defense was holding Mike Ditka's designated Billy Joes in check, and with Mike Allstott showing Ricky Williams exactly how it's done, Dilfer's Dandies ran out winners by a 31-16 score. A nice debut by Tampa's draft steal Darnell McDonald at wide receiver, but the key was stopping Ricky Williams cold. Coach Ditka's master plan needs updating. In Seattle, the Seahawks got their first rushing touchdown of the season when Ricky Waters ran it in from 19 yards out 3 minutes into the game against Cincinnati. Old friend John Kitna hit Waters for his second touchdown of the game. Seattle led 14-3, and it was looking like a runaway. But still in the first quarter, Jeff Blake hit Carl Pickens for a 75-yard touchdown to make it 14-10, and the Bengals were threatening. And we don't get to say that line very often. But Kitna came back with a 20-yard touchdown toss to Mike Pritchard, and then followed that with a 10-yarder to Derek Mays, and Seattle's lead was 28-10 at the half. Great catch by Derek Mays. It was 34-13 in the fourth quarter when Jeff Blake ran in a touchdown, but what a difference coaches make. The Seahawks are a different team under Mike Holmgren, while if Bruce Kozlett had been leading the D-Day invasion, we'd all be speaking German today. A great day for Ricky Waters on the ground, another solid performance by the former Barcelona Dragon, John Kitna. Downtown Dave Brown celebrated his return to the Jersey Swamplands by hitting Rob Moore for 71 yards to put the Cardinals into scoring position. Michael Pittman went in from 4 yards out to put the Cards up 7-3 over the Jets at halftime. Trailing 7-6 in the fourth quarter, Rick Meyer, yes, Rick Meyer, hit Keyshawn Johnson He gave him the damn ball, 43 yards for a touchdown, and the Jets win 12-7. The key, no interceptions from Meyer, 131 yards on the ground from Curtis Martin. And looking at the standings around the league, that really tough AFC East, there's 4 teams that could qualify for the playoffs out of this division, but they're more likely to cut each other down before the season's over. In the Central, the Jags have allowed only 76 points in 8 games. That's the best mark in the NFL. Cincinnati, by comparison, has allowed 278, and Cleveland has only scored 83 points. That's the worst mark in the NFL. And in the West, Seattle now starting to pull away from the pack. Kansas City a surprise at 5-3. San Diego dropping now to 4-4, and Denver at 3-6. Not completely eliminated, but a wild card is a real long shot in the AFC. And Washington and the surprising New York Giants, who had a bye week and stayed at 5-3, are on top the NFC East. Dallas, of course, play Minnesota in our game tomorrow. Arizona and Philadelphia are out of it. And Detroit, surprisingly, on top of the Central. Minnesota playing Dallas tomorrow. Green Bay, Tampa Bay now even at 4-4. And the Bears at 4-5, still a factor. And finally, in the West, St. Louis is on top at 6-2. They've scored 265 points. That's the best mark in the NFL. And really, they're not going to be challenged in this division. San Francisco is in a tailspin. Carolina's coming up a bit, but they're still only 3-5. And taking a look at winning records, the balance of power has really shifted into the AFC right now. As you see, 2 teams at 7-1, 4 at 6-2, Buffalo at 6-3, and 2 more at 5-3. And there's only 4 teams in the NFC with winning records, although whoever wins Minnesota against Dallas will have a winning record at the end of that game tomorrow night. But really, where's Green Bay? Where's San Francisco? Where's Dallas? You know, all the great teams that you would expect. Atlanta, last year's conference winners, are, of course, reeling as well. And injuries and things have a lot to do with that. But basically, the balance of power is shifting.
It has. We chatted about it last week. It was the facts that kind of induced the conversation. Suggestions that coaches moving and the way that the trades now work, and basically the whole thing's kind of convoluting around, and it has changed, shifted the power away.
Yeah, and coaches moving is a big thing. Jimmy Johnson goes from Dallas to Miami. Mike Holmgren goes from Green Bay to Seattle, and that improves things. New coaches, though, come along. You know, John Gruden has made Oakland competitive, done a really good job there. Mike Riley has made San Diego sort of competitive in the first year. But I think it's also the law of competitive balance, you know, is that when you have one really good team that you have to try to match up in your division, it makes everybody in that division better. And, you know, Jacksonville has now surpassed Pittsburgh in that AFC Central, but Tennessee is also there because they had to match the standard of the old Steelers. And, you know, Jacksonville did it partly by taking players away from the Steelers.
Absolutely, yeah. That AFC East is a good example. We're going to see teams kind of beating up on each other, quality teams, and that's perhaps going missing as a result.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When you think that the 3 wild cards could all conceivably come out of that division, except that by the time the season's over, they're all going to be sitting at sort of 10-6, black and blue, and somebody in the Central is probably going to be 12-4 or 11-5 and in second place.
Halfway through, is there anybody else there who's just being pacing themselves nicely, I know it's an interesting thought, but are we looking at the form? Are the form teams in the position they should be?
They're starting to show. There's still some surprises. I'm not convinced New England is really a 6-2 team. Kansas City, I'm not convinced is really a 5-3 team. But you know, but they are getting the job done. But there's so few really good quarterbacks around